Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, everyone, for joining this Facebook Live town hall. And I want to take a few moments at the top just to say how much I appreciate you joining the conversation today. I know there's so much on our minds right now. We hear it in our office each and every day, and we're really grateful for literally the thousands of people every week that reach out to us directly with a question, with a concern, with a bill recommendation. You all have a lot of ideas as we navigate this new administration. And each and every day we find things that we're deeply concerned about and need to find ways to provide an accounting of it and to raise our collective voices in a way that can be constructive and help reflect what's important to the people of New Hampshire at this moment. So again, thanks again for joining this Facebook Live town hall. Please drop your questions into the chat. We'll get to those in just a moment. But just want to say a few things at the top about some of the more important issues that we've been hearing about from constituents in New Hampshire over the last few weeks. Just last week, we saw the Republican reconciliation budget, which is known as that big, beautiful bill, passed the House of Representatives by just one vote. It was brought up in the dead of the night. Last minute changes were made through the Rules Committee to satisfy certain members. And this is a bill that is going to gut funding for Medicaid and literally see 36,000 people in New Hampshire lose their health insurance. In addition to that, it will cut food assistance for needy families in New Hampshire, literally taking mouths out of the food out of the mouths of kids and families in New Hampshire, all in the name of trying to give tax breaks to folks who don't need it. The wealthiest Americans, billionaires, the biggest corporations. So I was up all night while the bill was being considered, spoke on the floor of the House at I think 1:45 a.m. To reflect what I was hearing about in terms of concerns around Medicaid cuts. Folks have been telling me how important this program is to them, whether it's individuals with disabilities, kids, seniors, individuals in long-term care. Medicaid is important for individuals to get the health support that they need, but also employment services, transportation, also allows people to live with a level of independence that's really critical for all of us. And make sure that the bill is paid, which is important to our hospitals and our community health centers that serve people across the state of New Hampshire. So it's a proposal that now that has gone to the Senate. It's expected that they're going to be making some changes to the bill, which means it'll come back to the House. And we really look forward to engaging with you all in that process as this bill continues to move through the legislative channels in Washington. Another area that I wanted to just reflect on right now is the issue of tariffs. Of course, we saw a court ruling in a trade court earlier this week, a three-judge panel that issued a ruling placing a hold on the tariffs that President Trump has been issuing under emergency powers. We have said all along that I believe the president was going beyond the bounds of the authority that he had under the law to levy tariffs in a number of different places. And so I think this is an important step forward and a recognition that this will continue to be challenged in court. That's something that is top of mind for a lot of small businesses that I talk to, for families that we know are struggling with high costs right now. We should be doing everything possible to make sure this economy is a level playing field, to bring down the cost of things like groceries, of housing, of childcare. Tariffs only make those day-to-day expenses even greater. And we're going to do what we can to reflect the concerns that we've been hearing across the state of New Hampshire. I'm supporting legislation that would work to undo this and make sure that Congress, as our Constitution intended, is in the conversation with respect to how tariffs are set. But of course, these court cases will move forward. And we look forward to continuing to engage with you all to understand how this is impacting folks right here in New Hampshire. A number of other folks have written into us about job cuts within the federal government. As we think about efficiency and ensuring that taxpayer dollars are well spent, there are a lot of ways that we can put good ideas on the table. But just having a blanket policy of wanting to, say, cut 80,000 workers at VA is not going to make that department more efficient. In fact, it's going to shortchange our ability to be able to meet the needs of veterans in New Hampshire, and is going to cut into the direct care that veterans are offered through VA and through our health centers across New Hampshire. So that's a concern of mine. And as we move ahead, would love to continue to hear from you all about what's on your minds. This is an important moment where I think engagement is critically important. And we'll just get right into some questions now. And we've got a number that have come in advance of us going live on Facebook, but you can drop in your questions and concerns. We'll try to get to as many as we can as we move ahead here. So the first question I have is from Mary Williams, and she asks, "What are you doing to lower taxes?" And Mary, I appreciate the question. There are a number of ways that we should ensure that we're taking steps to make life less expensive for working families and for small businesses. And I absolutely support making sure that our Main Street businesses are able to benefit from a smart tax code that's going to support the ability to reach new customers, to grow and thrive here in New Hampshire. And when it comes to making sure that we're cutting taxes for working families, we'll continue to support legislation that will expand the child tax credit, which puts money back in the pocket of hardworking families, as well as making sure that rates are fair for working families right now. I believe that tax relief should be targeted to working families and small businesses, not to those earning $1 million plus a year, not to billionaires, not to really well-financed multinational corporations that are doing just fine at the moment. We really need to be thinking about how we create a level playing field in our economy. And one of the reasons why I've opposed this reconciliation bill in Congress is that if you look at the bottom 10% of income earners, they're actually going to see their take-home earnings go down by about 4%. The top 10% of income earners are going to see their earnings increase by roughly the same percentage, although on a dollar value, that's far more benefit that's going to folks at the top. So people who are struggling right now to afford bills, to make ends meet, are going to be hit hard by this bill. And those that are doing well, are earning more than $400,000 a year, are going to get huge tax breaks and other support in the legislation. And I think that's just the backward priorities that we need to be realizing in legislation right now. So we should be focusing that tax relief on folks that truly need it right now, and also making sure that we're not gutting programs that people depend on, like healthcare, that are only going to raise costs for people across the state of New Hampshire. So the next question I have is from Susan. She asks, when will the average voter get to read the big, beautiful bill if it goes forward? So the bill's been passed through the House. As I mentioned before, we expect that the Senate's going to make some changes to the bill, which means they'll take some time with it, and then it would come back to the House if they make any changes to the bill. But what the House voted on, you can find online. The bill's H.R. 1. It's called the One Big Beautiful Bill. And the full text of the bill is available. And so, I had a number of colleagues that weren't fully read in on all of the bill text while they were taking a vote on it, because there were a lot of last minute changes that were made to this particular piece of legislation. And that's not a way to create a large piece of legislation that has a variety of different impacts, whether it's in the healthcare sector, on taxes, on the kind of assistance that working families need. We should have ample time to be able to review, dig into legislation, and vet it with our constituents. And there were a number of things that got dropped into this bill at the 11th hour, which is just not the sort of open process and regular order that I think taxpayers and the American public deserve. So the bill that the House approved is online. Again, we expect some changes to be made in the Senate, and we're going to continue to dig into this and to bring it back home to New Hampshire to get your reaction and your thoughts as we move ahead. So the next question is from Robert. Robert asks or says, I'm concerned about the future of NPR and NHPBS. And I agree. I'm concerned about that too. We've seen the administration restrict funding, pull back funding for a number of different important initiatives that impact the availability of services here in New Hampshire. And one the steps that they're taking to either hold back funding that's already been appropriated by Congress, or the narrow budget that they submitted that eliminates funding for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and the Arts, would have a devastating impact on both NPR and New Hampshire PBS. So I've talked with folks who are deeply concerned about this in New Hampshire. This is about making sure people can get the information they need from trusted news sources, that there's educational programming that's available. And I think, for the small investment that flows through New Hampshire, that supports New Hampshire PBS and NHPR, I think there's significant value to us as a society, as a democracy, to make sure that that information is available to the public. So we're going to do what we can to advocate for that through the appropriations process. All of these funding freezes, most of them anyway, have been challenged in court. And so there are a lot of cases pending on a number of different funding streams that the administration has blocked or has tried to change from what was passed into law by Congress. I've signed on to a number of these court cases. We'll continue to do what we can to make sure that the funding that has been appropriated gets implemented in the way Congress intended, and that we request funding in a fashion that is smart, that will invest in New Hampshire and support the things that people in the Granite State support, including New Hampshire PBS. So thanks very much for the concern. Next question I have is from Christine. And she says, what can be done to protect the Medicaid program? Christine, thanks so much for that question. I mentioned before this big piece of legislation that's moved through the House already would really devastate Medicaid. Medicaid's foundational. It's been in place since the 1960s. It's a program that serves more than 100,000 Granite Staters. Of course, a few years ago, we expanded Medicaid. That expanded the reach of the program, also added new services in for mental health and addiction treatment and recovery services. That's been really important for New Hampshire to address some of the challenges that we've seen in our community over the last several years. And so it's worked. It's provided more people with access to care that's affordable, that's there at the right time. Also ensures that people can, see a primary care doctor as opposed to just waiting till they have an emergency situation and is going for much more expensive care, say, in an emergency room. So that's not good for the individual. It's not good for our overall healthcare system. It's one of the reasons why defending Medicaid is critically important. What we're trying to do is to bring the voices of the people of New Hampshire to bear in this conversation. I think that's going to be an important tool for us as we think about how we find the 3 or 4 votes we might need in the House to be able to block any cuts to Medicaid. Some of what has been designed in this bill is to make the program more cumbersome for people to sign up for. So if you're an individual with disabilities, there would be multiple assessment periods during the course of the year where you'll have to reapply for benefits and go through more bureaucratic hoops to get the care that you need. And I think that's just wrong. I think it's not what people in New Hampshire are looking for right now. They want to make sure that they can access care and that there aren't more roadblocks being put in their way because we know that people are going to lose coverage as a result that are eligible, that are qualified, and people who deserve that kind of care and support. So we're going to continue to try to tell these stories. We urge people to write into our office. Let us know how Medicaid impacts you, what your healthcare situation looks like. We're happy to share that story as part of the conversation in Washington. I do think that people are hearing it. My colleagues all across the country from both parties are receiving the same level of input that we're hearing in our district. The question is if they'll listen to it. And I think it just comes down to what public service is all about. It should be about listening to your constituents, trying to figure out how you can help, and trying to figure out how you create a future where everyone's included, where everyone has access to care. I think people in New Hampshire believe that should be something that the government helps facilitate. So thanks for that question. Next, we'll go to a question on Facebook. Anne Marie asks, I'm concerned with my Social Security and Medicare. I've had a situation with Social Security come up, and this is my only financial support. Anne Marie, thanks very much for sharing your thoughts. And I agree with you. Social Security is a foundational program. It's part of the American bargain. We've got to make sure it continues to be there. Now, we have seen some deeply concerning moves be made by the administration that's making it harder for people to access their benefits. There's a proposal to gut the Social Security workforce by half. We've already seen an impact in terms of wait times for people to get a call back, to get a question answered, to apply for benefits in the first place. And that just makes no sense. After people have worked hard, paid in throughout their lives, they should be able to access these benefits. We're going to do whatever we can to stand up and to make sure that Social Security and Medicare will continue to be there. So next up, we have a question from Amy. And Amy says, the federal science funding agencies have already seen significant reductions in staff and reorganizations, and the proposed budget includes massive cuts to science funding. What will you do to keep the U.S. from losing its competitive edge in science? Thanks very much for that question. We've been getting a lot of feedback with respect to funding for NIH, funding for STEM education, making sure that our research capabilities as a nation can continue to move forward. And so this kind of effort to cut back research funding at our universities across the country, to disrupt the vital research that the federal government leads at entities like NIH, will only set our efforts backward to be able to innovate, to have the leading economy in the world, to unlock breakthroughs that are going to make people healthier and ensure that our economy will continue to grow and thrive. We should be making smart investments in basic research. We have done this for a long period of time throughout our history. I think of the jobs that are created here in New Hampshire as a result of federal research dollars that come into our state. And so you can see the direct impact on the New Hampshire economy in terms of the research that's done in places like Dartmouth and the University of New Hampshire. But we also have to recognize that we are in a competition right now with other nations, including an adversary, China, that is spending significant resources to outcompete the United States, to out-innovate our country. And without this research capability, it's going to go to other parts of the world, including China, which would set our country back economically, wouldn't provide us with the resources we need to compete. And certainly for scientists looking to study and perform this research, they'd be going other places other than the United States of America. So I hope that we can find the bipartisan footing we need to make sure that we're protecting science and research. That's going to be critically important, not just for our economy, but for our ability to make sure that this is an American century. Next question we have from Facebook. Christopher Clinton on Facebook says, I thought the power of the purse was held by Congress. How is it that the executive branch can control finances with executive orders? Well, Christopher, thanks for the question. And you're right. Constitutionally, the power of the purse lies with Congress. And the way that appropriations are passed, funding is passed, is by Congress passing a law that the president signs. And then the executive branch is supposed to follow the law. There have been a lot of court cases through the years that make it very clear that the administration doesn't have the ability to just decide which laws it wants to enforce and whether it wants to freeze funding altogether for initiatives that have been passed by Congress in an appropriations law. And so much of this is playing out in the courts right now. What we've been looking for is some cooperation from folks across the aisle in Congress to help make sure we can defend the things that are in those bills that are really important to people that we serve. Everything from libraries to Social Security offices to jobs at the shipyard in Portsmouth. All of that has been called into question by the administration over the last few months. But that shouldn't be the case given Congress's role in passing those authorities and that funding. So we've seen a number of challenges in the courts. Many of those have been successful. More than 100 injunctions have been issued. And that's a process we will continue to support where we can when it intersects with something that's really important for New Hampshire. But again, I think we also have to ensure that that people are using their voices and are speaking out when you see something happening that you don't agree with. And so we're hoping people will continue to call in and write into our office, but also use your own networks to speak out about things. And let's figure out how we can identify those things in our communities right here in New Hampshire that are being impacted. And so we try to take, the fight out across New Hampshire every day to make sure that we're making that connection so that people don't just think that this is a fight that's happening in Washington, that they understand how relevant this is to our quality of life, our way of life, our economy right here in the state of New Hampshire. So once again, courts are going to have an incredibly important role to play, I think, throughout this presidency as President Trump continues to test the boundaries of the law, the Constitution, and what he can get away with without people raising their voices or noticing. We have to try to provide a full accounting for everything, understand those things that are really important for our state, and find ways to push back And we love any additional suggestions you might have of how we can work together on that. Next question I'll go to is from Angela Marie Brassard from Manchester. She says, I'm a deaf mom receiving Social Security benefits for myself and my special needs kids, and I'm very concerned about SSA's plans to add AI to their phone systems. What are you doing to ensure that SSA remains truly accessible and that families like mine can reach real humans when we need help? Angela, thanks for sharing a little bit about your story and your family situation. And I agree, it can be incredibly frustrating when you're trying to get a basic question answered and you have to go through all sorts of different menus on a phone system. Maybe there's an electronic voice that's not exactly on the same page with the issue that you have and what you're asking about. And so I would say a couple of things. One, if anyone's facing any issues with Social Security or any other program, reach out to our office. And we have folks on our constituent service team that would be happy to assist anyone who's not getting through those menus, is not getting a live person, and really wants some answers or just has some challenges that you might need some assistance with. Secondly, I agree. I believe there should be live human beings that taxpayers are able to connect with, whether that's in Social Security or the Veterans Administration. I hear about this from New Hampshire veterans a lot about whether or not AI is going to replace those people at the other end of the phone that they rely on to file a claim, to access their benefits, to get questions answered. We want to make sure that's the case. There's a role for AI to play to make government more efficient, to make it more user friendly, to ensure that we're identifying when someone who has served our country might have been exposed to toxic substances and can get diagnosed with a condition early to be able to get the care that they need that will help save and improve their lives. But we don't want it to replace that connection that a person might need with someone on the other end of the phone or just with the resources that they deserve. So we'll continue to work on that issue, but our office is always happy to be a point of contact too for folks that have questions and concerns out there. Next question I have is from Dan. He said, what are the Senate and Congress doing to help all the veterans who are probably going to lose their homes due to the cancellation of the VA VASP program? Dan, thanks very much for that question. We've been hearing a lot about this, and I'm on the Veterans Committee, so we focused a great deal on what we can do to try to make sure that people can stay in their homes who might be at risk of foreclosure. So the VA has canceled this last resort program that was established recently to make sure that veterans who are ready to start making payments again can come to an agreement with VA on how best to do that and prevent foreclosure. So these are real dire last resort scenarios. We are working in Congress to pass legislation that would stand up a new program, but of course that's going to take a few months to do it. And since the VA has canceled that safety net program that's there to prevent foreclosure, it's left about 80,000 veterans across our country exposed to potentially being kicked out of their homes. We want to assist anyone we possibly can who's caught up in this. We've also been pushing VA to reestablish a foreclosure moratorium for the time being before Congress acts to set up a new program to provide some basic protections for folks that are caught in a real tough situation right now. I mean, you think about the housing crisis we face in New Hampshire and across the country. We know how unaffordable housing can be. There isn't a stock of readily available apartments and homes that you can get into if you're able. And so I think this is an important step that we can take to make sure we're protecting those who served our country, who are able to make payments today and want to avoid foreclosure. And VA should have their backs. It was really incredibly disappointing, and I think did a disservice to veterans for them to just cancel it abruptly. We're going to continue to try to hold VA accountable and see what interim steps they might be able to take to help support our veterans. Next question we have is from Paul from Gilmanton. He asks, veteran suicide is out of control, 22 veterans a day losing their lives. What are you doing to hold the VA accountable for not ensuring proper mental health care is available for the ones in need? Paul, thank you for that question. It's a staggering statistic. It's been roughly 20 veterans service members, members of the Guard and Reserve, every day that die by suicide in our country. And that statistic really hasn't moved all that much over the last 15 to 20 years, despite a lot of investment, by the way, by VA. More needs to be done. And one way that I think we need to attack this challenge is to bring more outside organizations under the VA umbrella, so that it's not just a VA driven solution, that we're getting community organizations involved that are connected to veterans, that are doing good mental health work in the community, to help bolster what already is happening within VA. We also need to make sure that we're continuing to expand the availability of mental health care services within the VA network. That's going to be critically important. It means fighting against this effort to fire 80,000 people, which there's no two ways about it, would have a direct impact on direct care, including mental health care within the VA. And we've seen some important steps forward at the Manchester VA of late. More resources for mental health, more modernization of the facility. We're fighting and are hoping to secure a commitment from the administration to continue to bolster services at Manchester, build out a full service hospital, and modernize a facility that originally was built in the 1950s and has its challenges in terms of its infrastructure. We want nothing but the best for New Hampshire veterans, and we need to make sure that that veterans get the right care at the right time, especially those who are in crisis. Also, one thing we've worked on is making sure that there are alternative therapies that we could bring into VA. And VA has been hesitant at embracing things like massage therapy, acupuncture, equine therapy, other things that can really be a difference maker for veterans that are struggling with post-traumatic stress, might be on medication, but might find a better quality of life, and better opportunity through some of these alternative therapies. So that's absolutely something that we're going to continue to work on to make sure VA embraces. Well, I really appreciate all the questions that are coming in. We'll continue to work to engage with all of you. We're really grateful for the feedback. Once again, please reach out to our office if there's a challenge that you're facing that we can help address, or just a question or concern that you want to flag for us. Please don't hesitate to send in an email, give our office a call, send us a letter, whatever mode you want to reach us through. We're happy to hear you out anytime. I think as we look at a period that I think has been incredibly chaotic and challenging in Washington, what I want to see happen is for Congress, as the Article 1 branch of our government, to assert itself in the way that our founders intended. That means a system of checks and balances. It means Congress stepping up to the plate to provide the kind of oversight that the American people and that taxpayers deserve. It means trying to work together across the aisle to solve problems like some of the ones we talked about today, veteran suicide, making sure that we're protecting Social Security and Medicare, ensuring that we're addressing issues like tariffs and how we lower prices in our economy. All of that should be really common sense when it comes down to the task ahead of us and the charge that we were given by voters last fall. So we're going to continue to try to find ways to get things done, but also stand up for what's right, and for our system of government, our democracy, every chance that we get. Really grateful for all of your feedback. It's been coming in fast and furious, so please keep it coming. And whatever we can do to serve, to answer questions, or to provide some support in this tough moment, we want to be there to be able to do that for you. So thanks, everyone. Everyone have a great weekend, and we'll see you all soon.